Back, you guys. I'm Tassie, and today on my Ghost Life Day vlog, I'm gonna answer a bunch of you guys' questions. Normally, I try to keep them only to like certain months, like once a month. I'll dedicate a whole video to strictly just questions. But I'm getting a lot of them, and they're piling up. So we're gonna go ahead and get through these. I wrote a bunch of them down, and I have a bunch of them printed off. So, starting off, one of the first questions is about my boyfriend's family and their perception, especially of me, because they're not Asian. So, my boyfriend's family and them, they are aware that I can see things, that I sense things, and that I was a shaman. They don't know, like, the whole nitty gritty, the shrine, and all that stuff, but they have a good understanding of it. And especially the individual was curious, like, how do they handle the news? Do the ghosts that I saw like show me any family secrets, like stuff like that? So you guys are aware. I'm like struggling with this, but I shouldn't be. But just so you guys are aware, they definitely are receptive, that I can see them and that I've seen things. And they are so not like me. Like, even though like his mom, she's Catholic and everything, like, they're not afraid of ghosts. like, are you afraid of ghosts? Like, are you afraid of seeing ghosts? Like, the way I'm afraid of seeing ghosts? Like, even though I see it quite often, I see them all the time. I get scared still. But it's just like, their perception is totally different from mine. Like, maybe it's because it's one of their loved ones. But, honestly, if it was like somebody who I knew and I really loved and I was close to and I saw him as a ghost, I wouldn't be okay with it. Like my own dog Grizzly, I've mentioned this, if I saw him walking towards me, I would freak out because I'm aware that's not him, but maybe that's why. But they're like giving me tips on how to approach them. Like approach the ghost of like their grandmother or of the grandfather or of the dad. And I'm just like, no, like, no, thank you. No, thank you for the tips. I'm okay. But it's very endearing still, though, that, they're so receptive and they're so understanding, especially because I'm so different. So, like, I'm just like not interested in like communicating and hanging out with the ghosts of them. So, they are very, very like loving and giving and so receptive, and I'm just like like it's pretty terrible actually how my behavior is. But no, as far as like family secrets, I don't stick around long enough for that. I'm like freaking out the entire time I see them. It's not like, okay, if somebody was trying to communicate with them, they could probably find something. But I'm just gonna let you guys know, if you're an individual who can see them, I don't really think we're that interested in like saying what's up. Like, what knowledge do you have to share with me? No, like, for me, I'm just like, I didn't see nothing. I just go away. Just go away. Like that's me. That's me. So I'm not like, I don't know. Like how some people will do like seances or like anything like that, trying to like communicate with the afterlife. They will try and get information. And even then, if you are doing those things, it all depends on what that ghost, because a lot of times they have a certain message and they stick to that message. It's pretty seldom that you get the ghost where you could have a free flowing type of conversation where it's like how if you met me and we were talking, it's very seldom you'll actually have that. So, and the reason for that is when you're doing like seances, most of the times you're reaching out to the spirit here on earth. Not because like for Hmong people, we believe in reincarnation, but for other religions, they don't. So for us, we believe in the three spirits, like the one at the grave, the one who goes to get reborn, the one who goes back to work in the spirit world. So it all depends on which spirit you interact with. So like shamans, they will go into the spirit world and interact with that spirit, not necessarily the one here on earth. You can, but the one who's earthbound, that one is very limited on information. So when you're doing seances though, that is more likely the spirit you're going to get in connection with. So sometimes when an individual, they do a seance, so let's say somebody passed away, right? And you're trying to do a seance and you're trying to reach out to this individual, they won't always connect with them. And I'm not saying that you have to be so gifted to reach all sorts of spirits, okay? Sometimes they just won't wake up. They just won't register it. So they won't respond to you. That's how come when people are doing seances, which is like giving me the chills right now because it's the deceased you're going for, okay? And I'm very biased. That's why. Like, dead things should stay dead, but people like to talk to those spirits because those are easier to reach, but they're not as easy to reply. So keep that in mind. And I had a really funny comment how people get scared if I like jump to a camera. So I'll try to keep my distance. Moving on. So then another question I had was about the snake bracelets and like the strings that people wear. Do they actually work the way elders say they do? Yes, they do. Now, they work, but it depends on the magic on the item. So if somebody gifts somebody just a bracelet, it won't have the same connotation or the same magic when it's individualized for a person. So like if somebody just blessed 5 silver bracelets, right? And I handed them out, there is a certain level of protection, but it's very different when somebody is doing it specifically for an individual, right? Same thing with the strings. And I totally just did this like I was rolling the strings. So there's these strings that we actually have and for Hmong people. It's basically cotton, typically 100% cotton. It's thin strings and they can be different colors and they roll and twist them. So some people will actually braid them. Now, that is also going to depend on the magic or the spell on that string. So what I know for a fact from my own experience, whenever people come to me for like an illness or something's bothering them and my spirit guides tell me and direct me to give them a string, then I actually take the string from my shrine. And those are actually stronger because those are the strings that I enter the spirit world with. And those strings, they actually protect me as I'm in the spirit world. So there's a different type of magic around that. So those definitely are very powerful in my opinion. And a pretty serious situation, I would give them a string. So hopefully that answers it. Now, another question I had was about me speaking Chinese. So in several videos ago, I did a video where at the end, I had a message for an individual who was judging me because for some reason it bothered them that I was really Chinesey. The thumbnail actually had me with the words that actually said a special message from my spirit guides, if you want to check it out towards the end of the video. So people were asking about my Chinese and everything. And just so you guys are aware, so languages, different tongues, I guess you could say. All spirit guides will have different way of speaking. So even though, let's say that there's 3 shamans and me, and we all have the type who could speak Chinese, right? And all of us speak our way of speaking Chinese from our spirit guides because it's not us speaking it. They will all have different accents and they will all have different pronunciations. So we will actually sound very, very different. And my way, it's more Mandarin. So some people are confused if it's Cantonese or if it's Mandarin. Mine is going to be an ancient dialect of Mandarin. So that's not going to be the same for everybody. Because like one of my best girlfriends who's also a shaman and she speaks Chinese too, hers sounds differently from mine. So everybody speaks their spiritual language differently. And it's all because of your spirit guides. They're all different. That's why. Just like how we have accents here. We could all be speaking English, but we all have different accents. All right, so to this long list of questions. So this is going to be about identity. Specifically, this individual has sent me a list of questions, and this section, it's strictly about identity and spirits and in relation to individuals, okay? So, how do you know who or what a spirit is if they can change forms? So, that is a really good question, but honestly, it's going to depend on the individual's experience. So, for those of you guys who don't know this, and even if I say it, I don't know if you're going to understand it. It's a feeling. Like, because you guys know how I mentioned that demons, they can come as a certain form, right? But if you look closely, you'll notice the details are all messed up. Now, demons have a certain feeling. They give off a certain feeling. And because of my experience of being around them, I can feel it. It's a feeling. So that is how I would be able to differentiate it. Same thing if someone is deceased or if it is a spirit of something around that area, like an entity, but they weren't like somebody who was living and they passed. So it's not like a ghost kind of a situation. And they're not demonic either. And same thing with how I could see dragons and everything. It's a feeling that comes over you and you can identify it. It's kind of like how some people smell things, you know? This is a totally different type of skill set where for me it's a feeling. So even though, yes, I can just see it, sometimes I can't. I'm trying to think of it now. Like, it's pretty rare, but it all depends on how strong it is. The stronger it is and the more skillful it is, it can hide itself. So I may have, yeah, I mentioned it. I went to a person's house. I could feel the demon there, but the demon kept hiding its actual form, so I couldn't see it with my naked eye. But I could feel it there. And then it wasn't until I went to sleep that I actually saw it. So in those type of situations, I won't see it like right in front of me because it all depends on how skilled they are. It is, whatever it is. I hope that answered it. Now, I hope that answered it because if you're talking about a spirit in general and how can you tell, you wouldn't have access and knowing that that spirit was there unless you had some way of communicating, whether it is with the naked eye, the third eye, a feeling, a sense of some kind. So you have to learn to develop when you are around different types of spirits, what that feeling is and what it evokes in you and memory it is. And that's how you know what it is. Even if it looks completely different, it's a feeling. I don't know. I went through it a lot. So next question. How do we know entities are not disguising themselves as the deceased? This goes hand in hand with what I just said as well. I'm sorry. I probably should have read these in advance. So that is also a feeling, but you know how earlier in this video, I've already talked about like the three spirits and what Hmong people believe in for reincarnation. Now, those who go to church, though, they no longer believe in reincarnation. But when I say Hmong people, I'm just saying those who follow shamanism, we believe in the three spirits and reincarnation. So entities can disguise themselves as a relative. However, that is normally done by voices, also dreams, and sometimes it's a feeling, but pretty seldom, because feelings will give it away faster that it's not them. You'll feel it in your gut. That's not them, even if it looks like them. So I'm getting chills, man, because I keep recalling memories and stories. Okay. So that's how you can distinguish it, because the feeling is the one that's going to give it away first. So as soon as you get a gut feeling, even if they look like them, talk like them, everything, it's a gut feeling that will hit you first. That's not them. Whew, Lord have mercy, get these chills away from me. How do you know which spirits to communicate with? A lot of people don't. And I'm sorry, I keep saying this. It all depends on experience. So, a good example, when I was a shaman and I went to the spirit world, I didn't realize about the three spirits, and I was seeing the spirit at the grave, and then that spirit took over my body and tried to possess me, tried to come through me, and wanted to say all these different messages, right? But he was very, very angry, and I didn't know. Like, I just didn't know that that's not the spirit I should have been talking to. Because later on, I went to the spirit world and I saw the real one I should have been talking to, the nicer one. And I was like, oh my God, you're so different. So, it's just like, it's experience. Like, you're gonna have ups and downs, and it's all things meant to build you so that you learn from it. So people may be talking to entities or spirits and they think that it's a really good one and it's on their side, it's fighting for them, but it has its own agenda. It's evil. You won't know it until you go through it, and most of the times when it's too late. That's just it. That is just the path you're going to end up going through. So it's, don't hang up so much on spirits if you should or should not be talking to them. And also, the reason why for shamans, we have like protective things. We do things that protect us. In the case that we do come across a spirit that doesn't have good intentions, that isn't a spirit we should have been interacting with, we have things in place to protect us. And that is why you don't really see like because people, they want to start their shaman journey, but they struggle with finding a teacher, finding the support, having the money and the funds for it, and trusting all these things. But all of these things are built to protect individuals. Like, you're not going to have, or at least you shouldn't have, people claiming to be shaman teachers or masters, and they're just going to throw you out there. Like, no, like, when, even for myself, like my teacher, she does not enter the spirit world with me. When I raised my final shrine, she did. But that was like a thing you do. Well, but that's the only time it happens. So for myself, I enter the spirit world alone. Everybody else is just around me watching me as I'm doing it. That's it. So I have certain things I was born with that protects me. And on the outside, you have certain things built up to protect you too. And it all depends on your lineages, whatever that form of protection is. So for my lineage, we use goat horns. It's literally, you go and you pick out a goat, and my old horns, oh, it was so beautiful. It was an older goat, and it was a ram, and the horns that were super big, and it had curled. It had curled all the way around. It was so gorgeous. But anyways, not everybody's going to find a goat like that. Theirs might just be kind of straight, you know? So, but, and I'm just remembering like the spirit of it and everything. But, you know, and then, you know, like we have all sorts of different things that protect us. So you don't just have shaman teachers out there, masters or whatever, just like promoting easy ways to raise shamans. You just don't, because it's a dangerous business to be in. And you have to know what you're doing, and you have to know that your students will know what they're doing. And that's why you can't just have anybody, you can't just pick up anybody and have them do it. Pay a fee and you can just do it. You need to, and again, this is all my own experience from the Hmong shamans. I'm not saying this applies to other ethnic groups or anything like that, because I don't know anything about their shaman lineages. But for Hmong shaman lineages, we are born to have certain protectors with us when we enter the spirit world, because our own teachers don't go with us. Their spirit guides don't go with us. They're like, that's not my problem. So you innately have to have these certain types of spirits that protect you. And you're going to mess up at times. People are going to get injured when they go into the spirit world. It happens more often than people are willing to talk about. And that is the dangers of being a shaman and going into the spirit world. It's not just Candyland when you get there. Candyland is kind of dangerous. I don't know. There is this one dark area. Okay. But you know what I mean. So, you know, it's not like it's just unicorns and rainbows. So certain things are always put in place to protect you, or at least it should. So I don't know if that answered the question. You won't know which spirits to communicate with. You just won't. You have to do it by experience. Okay, so this is a good one. How would you know if a spirit is your assigned helper versus an imposter? So in the Hmong shaman community, there is, it's not even like a legend, it's not even like a story or a myth, it's real. You're gonna have some shamans who raise students and send demons to them. I've mentioned this in passing in the taboo one, I think it was, the taboo video. But that happens, and those individuals who go through it or who have gone through it, where they have the demons with them, they can't tell. They can't tell if it's their spirit guides or if it's an imposter. And they end up losing a lot of money and a lot of faith. Oh, God. But I don't know. From my own experience, you guys, it's always, okay. So I'm trying to word this without getting yelled at by my spirit guides. It's like I'll start it and they'll be like, no. And then I start it and they'll be like, no. So, okay, this is going to be the easiest way I can explain it. When somebody becomes a shaman, and this is my own experience, this is not a for sure set in stone the law. This is my own experience because there's a lot of people who talk about this too. Okay, so a lot of people talk about true shamans. True shamans are people who are like me, born into it. You've had crazy scenarios since you were a baby. Now, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the whole true shamans because nobody would be able to become a shaman if they weren't true shamans. That totally contradicts the whole demon story I just told you guys about how some shaman teachers will send demons to their students to raise them to their final level, and then when they're done, they take the demons away, and then this shaman student who is now on their own doesn't know how to do anything anymore, right? But, like a standing shaman, and the reason why I don't agree with the whole only true shamans is from when you're born kind of a thing, because it's such a disservice to like all the grandpas and aunties and uncles who do tons of ceremonies, who have helped and touched many people's lives, and they didn't have those experiences since they were a baby, so, and it's just, that's just, so I can't say that that's true and set in stone in law, right? So I'm gonna go back to my original saying about how do you know if something is a assigned helper or imposter, and what can help you with that? When I became a shaman, like from a regular civilian, and then I went into the shaman world, it wasn't like boom, and then I'm super gifted. Okay, that's not how it happened for me. It was slowly, and I had developed a lot of those skills growing up through the years. Had I started being a shaman at 5 years old, at 10 years old, I still would not have all the abilities I learned in my 20s, because I was slowly developing everything until I got to my 20s. And by the time I was in my 20s, everything became so clear and I understood everything because I was already doing it without a shrine, without a teacher, since I was 5 years old. Before then too. But I'm just saying. So it's just like, if you think about that, shamans, in my head, okay, I'm not saying it's law. I'm just saying you don't just wake up, like you don't sit down on a bench in front of your potential teacher and then bam, you get like lightning struck and you're super psychic suddenly. Like, it doesn't happen like that. It gets developed over time. And so when suspicious things like that happen suddenly so fast, you should question it, because you don't just sit there and voices starts turning on, like that's not how it is. It's because to me and how I'm feeling it, it's not natural. And the whole point of the shaman and how it's very different from being possessed, because that is being possessed, okay? Like, you have full control of yourself, of everything. You still have full control. You still have the option to choose. And that is what really separates us from a spirit who is born into one role and they are sent to their chosen shaman. You have a choice still. Like, even for people who are wanting to do it and wanting to be one, or maybe not wanting to be one, you still have a choice. So if somebody who doesn't really have any supernatural experiences. You've been living your life just fine. And then somebody is telling you, oh, you're supposed to be the shaman. You're supposed to be this amazing, powerful shaman. You sit on their bench and suddenly all of this super intense, crazy stuff happens to you. You may want to consider seeking out another shaman. Just because it doesn't happen like that, in my experience. I don't know of any shamans either who didn't growing up already have these type of experiences. So if you were totally fine, is what I'm saying. Totally fine. You don't have any type of supernatural abilities. You don't even dream. Like, there are people who actually don't dream. So and then suddenly this is all happening to you, question it. Because that is a first sign that something is probably wrong. Now, on another note of that, some people just like the power, man. Like, they don't care if it's a demon who's with them. They just like the power. So there's that. Okay. So, like, Michael was not a spirit guide. He seems like he is, or he was, but he was not. He feels differently from my spirit guide. He feels like his own entity, his own person. Like, literally, I have a friend who just, like, disappeared from my life. That's what Michael was. So with Michael, I never fully trusted him. And I would have a sense of fear from him. So that is also a clear sign. If you have a fear of this, something's probably wrong. So just keep that in mind in case you have a Michael. Next question. Won't trickster spirits misrepresent themselves, especially to beginners? Oh God, yeah. It's the easiest time. Typically for shamans, Hmong shamans, your teacher will actually watch you, especially when you are going and entering the spirit world and doing your ceremonies. They will watch you, because if you lean too far crazy, they know of a way of cleansing you. So then that way, those trickster spirits, which they do come, and there's a lot of them, they will get cleansed from you and washed from you. The shaman in general won't know it though. Once a spirit imprints on yourself or others, how do we know who is 100? It's a feeling. You'll know. Like, even like with Michael, even though he imprinted on me, I know he does not. He has his own agenda, his own everything. He just had an obsessive outlook on me, but he was no. Yeah. All right, so the last question is, how do you not let these uncertainties deter you as a beginning shaman? I'm just going to let y'all know right away. Everything you were at the start of your journey, you will be nothing like it at the end. A lot of that, I keep mentioning it, experience. It will change you. Like, when people go into, especially a spiritual journey, they're so optimistic. They have so much faith. They have so much hope. They believe in the power of good, essentially. Even if you're somebody like me who was like, oh God, what the heck is this? Like, is this real? You know, it still puts you in a world of awe. It totally does. Especially the first time I saw God, I was in awe. Like, I still will think back on that day, the first time I saw it, and my mind couldn't wrap around what it was. And it's thinking back now, like, I always check myself. So if you guys don't check yourself, I consider you doing it. Checking yourself is being absolutely, completely, and utterly honest to yourself. I always set goals, because if I'm not moving, then I feel like I'm staying the same, and I'm not happy staying the same. I'm always wanting to move and take action and do something. So I always think about me 10 to 15 years ago. I'm 32. So if you're a lot younger, just think of yourself as like 5 years ago. Okay? Like, I think about me having the opportunity to approach the younger me and all the things that I would tell them. All the things, like everything that you may have had worries about, everything that you may have had wonders about. it will be so much better than you even imagined at that age. So that is important to me, checking myself to know that I have progressed and that I have made great strides and that I could be so proud to approach my past me and just reassure them, and it's funny because growing up, and I didn't start doing this until I was in my 20s, but growing up, I kid you not, I always saw visions of the future me. The future me always was telling me things that all sorts of crazy things that I couldn't imagine when I was younger. And this is when I was young, you guys. This is back in like when I was in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And that was like, I was born in 86 and we didn't even move to Minnesota until like 97, 98. So this was way back in the early 90s. And I would have visions of an older me who I didn't recognize because I didn't know how I was going to look like when I was older. But I would see the spirit of somebody who was an older version of me telling me all these great things that I was going to accomplish in life. But I didn't know that it was me. But I knew that that person was supposed to be me, but I couldn't fathom it. And then when I got into my 20s, I kept checking myself because I kept needing to know, like, have I progressed? Have I made all these things? Have I accomplished anything? And then I would sit there and I would think on younger me and all the things I would tell them. So I don't know if in a way I was kind of like imprinting and going backwards in a way, but just know that for a beginning shaman or even a beginning person going into their spiritual journey, you will be nothing like what you were at the beginning. The amount of experiences and things that will happen to you, good and bad. A lot of it will be bad. But and the funny thing is, even for like my story, there wasn't anything tragic that happened. It wasn't like, I had mad haters. Oh God, that just sounds so weird saying that. Like I didn't have like enemies. I didn't have people who didn't like me. It was the complete opposite. And I think it turned me off so much. Like people were just like, oh, it's Tassie. Like, oh, I need to go talk to Tassie. Or, oh, I should talk to Tassie. Like I was on this pedestal that was like, to me, it felt so fake. But other people put me there. And I felt like it wasn't my own doing. Like I didn't, I don't know. It's kind of weird because in the end, it sounds like I'm ungrateful. But when you are put in this pedestal and in this place where people see you as this certain thing and it's so important to their world, but it's not to yours. Like, I felt like I couldn't relate to people because they couldn't fully understand it. And I felt like everybody's experiences and coming to me was changing me too much to be this person I never wanted to be. Like, you see all and so much bad. And, you're sitting there trying to heal and help people and help them find closure and help them seek into their future. And I just felt like things that were important was no longer important because things that were important to other people were like really minuscule, no nonsensical things. And it was so important to them. And how they viewed me was so important. But I just didn't want anything to do with it. So it's not like I had a traumatic experience, So in a way, I guess it does sound like I'm really ungrateful. But, when you keep having things, and that's my problem too. Like, I don't like things being pushed on me. I don't like other people's agendas on me. And I can see when it's happening, which makes it so much worse. And so it was just, I wanted to just get away from it all, So going into it, I never saw in 10 years, I would have my shrine down, that I would walk away from everything, that I would be such a different person, and it's just, I mean, if you told me that when I started my shaman journey, I would never have believed you, but my guides were telling me things and I didn't want to believe them. And the whole point of what I was saying is that you need to just check yourself. Just keep checking yourself. And in the end, even if you lose faith in everybody else, don't lose faith in yourself. what you're capable of. What you are truly meant for is not that. Well, that was for myself. Okay, like, other people, you might be meant for that. Sorry. For other people, like, that may be your true calling. You're gonna probably love being on that pedestal. You're gonna be like, yeah, tons of money. I get tons of worshipers. I get free food all the time. People will 扩高了, which basically just means they'll worship you and like praise you like crazy. You know, like, you can do no wrong. You will be the sun in everyone's room as soon as you walk in. Like, some people will thrive in that environment. You absolutely will. You know, I didn't want anything to do with it. And so it was just, you know, like, I didn't feel like that fulfilled my life. So if for anybody who is starting on their journey, knowing that there are people who can send demons to you to make you believe you are an amazing shaman on your own, don't hold on to the bad. You know, check yourself. Know when things are too suspicious and you need to check up on it by going to somebody else and just not losing who you are, you know? I know that a lot of times when I say things, it may seem very peaceful and nirvana-y and like do good unto others. That's not all I'm about. But it's things to prepare people. Because I know people who watch my videos, I don't want to just tell you about all the bad, you know, because yeah, they do exist. But everyone's situation is different. I don't want people walking around thinking that, you know, there's demons in every corner. You know, like, some places, yes. But, you know, like, you should still keep that light in you, even if bad things do happen to you. That's just the way it is. And that is meant for you to grow and learn on it. It doesn't mean God turned his back on you or anything like that. You are meant to go through it, because the person at the end of that 10, 15 years later, that was what the goal was. But you had to go through that. So, long story short, I hope I answered all those questions. Okay? Until next time, you guys.